Welcome to another edition of WashCo Weekly. I am County Executive Josh Schoemann. It's great to be back with everybody. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about a question I've been getting at our listening sessions, and that is about AI data centers here in Washington County. Now, many of you have probably been reading the news, not just here in Washington County or Ozaukee County, our neighbors who are seeing the great big AI data center, but all across Wisconsin and really all across the country, the massive need for AI data centers for all of the AI revolution that's occurring as we speak. So it's important for us to talk a little bit about, first of all, what's going to happen here in Washington County. Are we going to see an AI data center anytime soon within our borders? And the answer appears to be no. There have definitely been a couple of inquiries from different locations for that kind of economic development to happen here in Washington County. And from everything that I've been able to gather, it looks like all of those have kind of worked themselves through the process and they've looked elsewhere, including, it sounds like, the Port Washington project. And it really boils down to one thing, and that is my biggest concern about data centers in general, and that is power supply and power distribution specifically. So for us here in Washington County, we don't have the appropriate energy distribution coming to us to be able to handle the scale and size and scope of power that would be needed. So let's talk about that for a second. In Beaver Dam, that is where the Meta data center is going, Facebook, for those of you who are more familiar. That particular data center, according to current reporting just this week, will have an energy need of about 150,000 homes, the equivalent of 150,000 homes. We just don't have that type of distribution readily available, close enough to us to make the math work to have that kind of an economic development project. Similarly, power supply, we don't have the nuclear plant in Two Creeks. We don't have the type of energy plants that Port Washington even has. And so for us, energy is currently a situation that is prohibitive for us to have that type of development. Now, that's not to say we're not going to be impacted. As a matter of fact, if you live on the east side of the county, you know firsthand, actually about 2 miles from my home in the town of Trenton and also in the town of Farmington, in the town of Jackson, the data center's power distribution is actually going to impact neighborhoods in those townships. So it will have an impact. We're likely to see, in some cases, potentially new massive power lines going through, and in other cases, expansions on existing power distribution, those big towers that you see with the wires going down. That you're going to see in a few different spots here in Washington County. So there will be an impact, but not the massive data centers being built like we're seeing with our neighbors to the west in Dodge County and Beaver Dam, or to our east in Ozaukee County with Port Washington. So I would anticipate that there will be a day when Washington County will see a data center that comes. However, the good news for us is that we're going to be able to learn a lot of lessons from our neighbors in Port Washington and our neighbors in Beaver Dam on what works and what doesn't work. Now, I've heard a lot of concern about two other things, water, the water needs for data centers, and the amount of farmland that's needed for any new data center. And of course, those things are absolutely concerns. But with closed loop water systems, I have less a concern about water. It's not that I don't have a concern, but less of a concern. Really, it comes back to power supply and distribution. And I'll say that as regard to agricultural land being used up as well. Yes, hundreds and even thousands of acres are being utilized for these data centers, whether it's in Mount Pleasant with Microsoft, whether it's with the Vantage data center up there. It sounds like Oracle with Port Washington, or Meta Facebook over in Beaver Dam. It's hundreds and thousands of acres being utilized. No doubt a problem. The challenge, and the reason I always go back to power, is because if that's your concern, those data centers and the locations they're at, the agricultural land being used is a fraction, just a fraction of what will be used because of our current energy policy for the last decade to 2 decades. We have created a situation where we're entirely too reliant on solar and wind. It's not that solar and wind are bad energy sources, but the amount of solar panels, the size of the fields that they'll need to take up, the size of the wind farms that will need to take up existing fields will make the current agriculture use for those data centers look like a drop in the bucket. It will be a substantial amount of need for the number of solar panels, number of wind farms, the total acreage that's taken up for those things to happen. So there are a number of things that we need to have a better handle on. And fortunately for us in Washington County, we're going to be able to watch firsthand as our neighbors go through it. So when the day finally comes where a data center is looking at us, we've got some best practices in place and hopefully a heck of a lot more energy supply to be able to provide and not see the type of changes that are being contemplated today. So if you have more questions that you'd like to hear answers to, please email us at the email address below. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time for WashCo Weekly.